Welcome back to Not That It Matters. I apologize for the little delay in starting this. We have a new protocol going on here at the bench with our broadcaster. We have to turn the channel off air, on air, allowing you guys to be able to see our logos when we go live. And I know Cam Koffel, who has the week off, he's traveling with his family. Usually Not That It Matters with Cameron Koffel, or sorry, Not That It Matters, calling the shots of Cameron Koffel, usually on before me. He's working hard. He's still running the show. He's doing a good job, but we're here live now on the Bench Sports app with the Android. The link, the listeners, everybody listening, thank you for listening. We're back here, Tuesday edition, with none other than the man in a new position here on the Zoom, for those that will be watching on YouTube. Derrick Al, reporting live from the game room this time at the Alp House. Derrick, how's it going, dude? Tuesday edition. We had a lot going on since we last talked.
Well, it's a beautiful, 65 degrees. I don't need a fan in Salinas, but yeah, it's been a busy weekend full of snapped ankles, shoeies, Stephen A being xenophobic, and yeah, where do we start, Max?
I think we start with hockey, because that's definitely relevant right now, because without hockey, I don't know how I would live. But regardless, there is some hockey news. NBC is over. I don't know if you saw the 13-minute video that NBC put out, narrated by Doc Emmerich. It was great. I think I saw you reposted on your Instagram story. There were some memories. But there is some news and kind of moving on to the next chapter. I can relate that to Pekka Rinne, goalie for the Nashville Predators. I mean, if his number is not retired next season, they're doing him dirty. He is Mr. Nashville Predator. He is an all-timer. He is a great player. I mean, he's played 683 career NHL games, and they've all been for the Nashville Predators. He's made them relevant when they're not supposed to be relevant. Career stats-wise, a 917 save percentage, a 2.43 goals against. In his playoffs, he was 2.5 goals per game, played 89 playoff games, started every single one of those playoff games. Now, he didn't start this year, but the other story about Pekka Rinne, he was an 8th-round pick. And just the legacy. I mean, the only thing that I think he doesn't have is a Stanley Cup, which is unfortunate. But I know neither of us are Nashville Predators fans, but we both like the sport. Are there any things of Pekka Rinne that you remember that Nashville's going to miss?
Well, he had a very underrated, spectacular career for Nashville. 13 seasons. Hockey is one of the few sports where usually majority of the star players stay with one team, that's awesome, because there's always going to be money, greed, free agency right there, and you never bid on it. And I think, he gets lost in the conversation just because he played in the era of Braden Holtby, Marc-Andre Fleury.
Henrik Lundqvist, another one.
Yes, sir. And then obviously Andre Vasilevsky, and we'll get to him a little bit later. But yeah, he had a very solid career. Won the Vezina a couple of years ago, I believe 3 or 4 years ago. Of course, took the Predators to their only Stanley Cup final appearance so far, where they lost to the Pittsburgh Penguins in their back-to-back run. But yeah, just a very solid career. Obviously, Mr. Hockey in Nashville.
Oh, yeah.
You could say that. Yeah, by far. So, it's a bittersweet day for the Predators fans down there. I've heard, that Bridgestone Arena is one of the best environments to watch a hockey game. They've really turned it around.
It's so loud in there, the crowd chants. Yeah. It's got to be a place to play. I mean, when they made it that Stanley Cup final run, I know Roberto Luongo had just retired, he had 1 year left before he retired. He was tweeting. He was like, I want to be in that environment. I want to get chirped. Yeah. I want to hear these people yell this. So, Pekka Rinne's lived it, like you said, 13 seasons, 8th-round pick. Lundqvist was a 7th-round pick. Pekka Rinne, 8th-round pick. These guys and their legacies are so big with their teams. And, I think, I hope he stays a part of the organization in some way so that he can get a Stanley Cup if they do win one, and whether that's an assistant to the general manager, player development, coaching, whatever it might be. I hope he stays in and around the national. He's a good guy. Everybody liked him. You would smile. Everybody was happy for he won that Vezina. He has everything except for that Stanley Cup. So, bittersweet. And unfortunately, he allowed the Penguins to go back-to-back. Now, the Lightning have gone back-to-back, and there has been some updates on a couple of their players regarding injuries, and that's as well as their celebrations. The Stanley Cup was a little bit injured, by the way. Derrick, I'm not sure if you saw the picture, but Patrick Maroon was out carrying it outside a hotel room, and the whole top of the cup is just dented inward. It's as a hockey fan, I love to see it, have fun, but respect the cup, man. It's the prettiest looking cup. It's the best cup. should there be repercussions for the Lightning breaking the Stanley Cup? Not breaking, denting. I'll say that because I know they can be buffed and fixed.
Yeah, well, I know Gronk. When they, I think it was the Patriots last Super Bowl against the Rams. He dented the top of the football, and they just decided to keep it. The Stanley Cup, to me, it's the greatest team trophy in sports, and of course, people can say the World Cup, but that's like it's like me holding my microphone. That's how big that trophy is, and I don't really want that because Stanley Cup, you can take it for a day, you can take it back to your hometown, and
every player gets it for a day.
Yeah, and the Lightning, they played an unreal season. I think last season obviously was more impressive considering what they had to go through, and then obviously playing in the Edmonton and Toronto bubbles. Victor Hedman, that defense was spectacular. Then you go back to this year, Tampa, Andre Vasilevsky was on another level. It was going to come down to the goaltending, and the dude played outstanding. Of course, won the Conn Smythe. So yeah, it's a good run for their Champa Bay or Tampa Bay, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, I don't think there should be repercussions. They're just celebrating. They're dudes being dudes.
I would agree. It just pains me to see that thing hurt. As somebody who's seen it in person more than once, that thing is special. I saw it when it was here in San Jose for the All-Star game. They brought it to the whole convention center, and I've been to the Hockey Hall of Fame, and I've seen the original cup. So I get it, have fun. I agree with you. I don't think there's repercussions, but going back, you brought up Victor Hedman. News came out today that he played from March 30th of the season, so about halfway into the entirety of the NHL season, through the playoffs with a torn meniscus. Now, he was still nominated for Norris, but his numbers were clearly down, and everybody thought something was off. Playing through a torn meniscus is very hard, and Joel Embiid has embodied that. I know it's a different sport in hockey. I mean, he did it for longer than Embiid. I'm not trying to brag hockey's better. But you look at someone like Giannis, who knows? They said his MRI came back clean. Is it really? Is there something the hyperextended knee, that the things in there in both basketball and hockey are just so tremendously important that it's insane to me that he played the entirety of the playoffs and half the season basically on one knee. Another injury, Nikita Kucherov. I'm not sure if you remember the cross-check. I believe it was in game 2 of the conference finals of the Lightning and the Islanders. Nikita Kucherov took a cross-check to the back. He actually broke his rib, and it was displaced, meaning it was off-center. It wasn't just a crack through. So it cracked and went off-center. And he played through that, and then just wild to me. And I'm sure there's other bumps and bruises and injuries. But we hear about this all the time. The fact that Hedman's still nominated for Norris, now I'm happy Adam Fox won as a Ranger fan. But his impact clearly wasn't there in the playoffs, but it just shows how deep the Lightning were, right? Ryan McDonough became a star, former Ranger, by the way. But, I mean, it just shows how deep this team is. And again, we could look at Pekka Rinne, too, right? He was an 8th-round pick. Braden Point was a 3rd-round pick. Kucherov was a 2nd-round pick. Vasilevsky was a 3rd-round pick. All these guys coming in, good draw depth guy, Blake Coleman. The Canadians shut down the Lightning. They allowed 2 power play goals. One of them was in game 1 in the 8-0 loss, and the other one was I forget which other game because it was only one, but they only scored 2 power play goals. So with these injuries and knowing how good the Lightning are deep wise, could they go on a 3rd run? I know they've got to lose some people because of cap constraints in the expansion draft, but with the core they have, with Point, Kucherov, Stamkos still, Hedman, and Vasilevsky, could they do another cup run? I think so. There's no reason to count them out yet.
Yeah, no, they'll make the playoffs, and they'll be a Stanley Cup contender. Kucherov, man, played with a broken rib. I mean, god damn, you know what I mean? That is just
painful.
Insane. Play for a broken rib. I've had knee problems too. Played baseball, a torn meniscus. God damn, man.
Just get half the season on it too is wild.
Yeah, it's insane. But that team's going to be, still stacked. And, like I said, with their Stanley Cup run, like you mentioned, Max, a lot of their star players were a little banged up, and Montreal did everything they could, but a lot of the role players won that Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
A lot of the role players are the reason why they had a boat parade yesterday in Tampa and St. Petersburg Bay Area. It's going to be more difficult. Of course, obviously, it's going to be back to the old school regular season, and they'll get to now start booking road trips to Seattle. And then, obviously we don't know what the situation is with the Olympics. So, we don't know. It's going to be back to normalcy, but still, I think the Lightning, they have a tremendous head coach in John Cooper. I mean, guy, to have a 3-0 lead, blow it against Columbus 2 years ago, okay, and then you obviously have the wackiest season of all wackiest seasons with the pandemic, and then you have to play in another country away from family for about, 2-3 months.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, and won the cup up there north of the border in Edmonton, and then obviously to do it here against a Montreal team that had probably one of the best postseason runs I've ever seen, beating Toronto and then Winnipeg, and then obviously taking care of Vegas. This run was
special.
Special. But it's going to be a lot different, like you mentioned, with the salary cap constraints, and obviously having a new team join the National Hockey League. So it's going to be a little bit tougher, I think. But yeah, I would not be surprised to see him in the Final Four. Of course, hockey, it's probably one of the hardest team sports to predict because there's so much depth with maybe the top 8 teams, and then also Vegas is going to reload, of course.
Oh, yeah.
And we'll see how Seattle comes out of the gates, in October, November. So should be fun though.
Should be fun, definitely, yeah. So I'll give you my last here hockey quote. I know we're going a little long on this, but there was some big news. I will mention this, 2 things. Dominic Ducharme, they took off the interim tag for the Montreal Canadiens. He's now officially their head coach with a 3-year deal. And then one of the biggest moves in the history of the NHL and free agency is Zach Parise and Ryan Suter of the Minnesota Wild. On July 4th, 2012, they both are from Minnesota. They both signed the exact same contract. The contract was a 13-year deal, and this contract was one of the things that made the constraints of the max contract now dropping to 8 years if you're re-signing and 7 years if you're a free agent. It was a 13-year contract, $98 million deal with a full no movement clause. So they can't get traded, they can't get cut, they can't get waived. And the only way to either get rid of it is for the player to remove their no move clause or for them to get bought out. And today, on July 13th, both Parise and Suter were bought out of that contract. There's still 4 years left on that deal. And the cap hit is $2.3 million this year, and it's a flat cap for this year and maybe goes up next year. Flat cap for this upcoming year, and the year after maybe goes up. But for the first, for years 3, 4, for years 2, 3, 4, the cap hit for the buyout for both players is 6.3 for the first, and then another million, so 7.3 and 7.3. Now, remember, it's the same contract here, Derrick. So, double these amounts. So it's going to be about 12.6 million of dead cap of players you're paying that are not playing for the Minnesota Wild in year 2. And in years 3 and 4 of the buyout, it's going to be about 15 million combined between the two players that are not playing for the Wild. And they did this because of Seattle coming in. And my expectation is they're using this because with a no-move clause, the expansion rules mean you have to protect that player. My thought is that they needed to create space to protect a player that they would much rather have that's younger, probably cheaper, but who may be cheaper than the buyout. We don't know. At the last 4 years, it's under $1 million, so that's okay. But 13-year contracts, when they signed it, we knew they were good. But, did we see this coming or did we see this coming?
My God, man. Why, 13 years, you got to win a cup. And I would say, I know they made 6 straight postseasons.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're the state of hockey and you didn't win a cup and, you never made it to the, second round. Yeah. I know they're fan favorites up there in St. Paul. But, I know Bill Guerin, he's trying to, rebuild the team, retool the team, as you'd say.
Yep.
Make it a little younger. Of course, build it around Kirill Kaprizov. The dude I never even heard of that guy before the season, and then he gets called up.
They brought over from Russia.
Yeah, and dude just was unreal last season. Going to take on the call, obviously, and so they're rebuilding, and I think the Sharks should, look at that. What? You can cut people that have big contracts? What? Come on, man. Our owner is the guy who runs SAP, so he can eat that up. He can make more security microchips in our computer. But, I would say for Parise and Sutter, it's bittersweet just because, you get to play for your hometown team, but when you sign the 10-year, 11-year, 13-year deals, you got to win at least.
You have to win or go deep at least once. And they made the playoffs in 8 of the 9 years, but
so
like you said, they never made it to the second round.
Yeah, they just hit the GameCube restart button. When you have Kaprizov, who's only 24 years old, I mean, you can instantly just become a playoff team again. And obviously, divisions are going to look a lot different next season. You know, with Arizona now going to the Central and Seattle coming in the Pacific. So you know, the Central is looking a little wide open, but should be interesting to see what Minnesota does in the off season.
Definitely gonna be fun. Expansion draft next week, but I think we've got some more pressing issues. I will say this. I don't think there's gonna be much more hockey talk on this channel until the expansion draft. The NHL draft is right before. It's okay, but we had some fun events this weekend. When we last talked, it was the day of the match. But this weekend we had the return. I guess the next return of Conor McGregor. It was him versus Dustin Poirier. It was the third edition. And unfortunately, they finished round one, and McGregor lost via TKO doctor stoppage. He ended up breaking his tibia, a clean break, and it's unfortunate. Now, although I do say this, Derrick, and I told you this, I did say Poirier was going to win it round two, and it sucks because this is the trilogy. They each had 1-1. It sucks that it ended that way because now we need a fourth, I think. And it sucks because Poirier deserves better than to keep fighting Conor McGregor. I mean, Poirier deserves a title chance against who I don't know. But, you know, there were some other good fights, Gilbert Burns, but give me your thoughts on the McGregor fight because, Derrick, that was a good round until the end.
Yeah, well, first off, I love seeing the UFC back at T-Mobile Arena. That's where they belong. They don't belong at the corporate warehouse, the Apex, or in Fight Island in Abu Dhabi. To be in front of 20,000 people in Vegas, that's what you plan. You know, bachelor parties, bachelorette parties. You know, all those events around those fights. You know, those bring in so much money to the casinos right there. But yeah, you know, a lot of people in attendance, a lot of celebs. I mean, we saw, you know, Machine Gun Kelly, Megan Fox, and then the Kourtney Kardashian, Joe Thornton,
Austin Matthews.
Yeah, he did not get a shout out. Yeah, they thought he was Justin Bieber's bodyguard or whatever. I'm like, okay, whoever's running the truck on ESPN don't know what they're doing. So, of course, the Cleveland Browns were in attendance, Mark Davis, former President Trump. But yeah, obviously that fight was back and forth to me. The first round, I scored it 10-9 at least for Poirier. You know, I didn't see the exact moment Conor got stunned. I saw him try to choke him out, and like, you know, when Conor tries to do grappling, you know, it's going to end badly. I mean, Conor's not a grappler. His wrestling takedown defense has improved drastically. We saw that with Chad Mendez, Khabib a little bit here and there. But yeah, you know, Conor was coming out guns a-blazing with spinning heel kicks and, you know, landed. But Poirier's chin's improved. And I think that's because he's fought a lot more than Conor has. And then, you know, you're starting to see Conor's chin, you know, not be the iron claw chin it was, you know, 3-4 years ago. I would do say that they will fight for a fourth time. I think the money is just too big to be there. It'll probably happen in I would say in a couple of years, and Poirier will get the title shot against Charles Oliveira. Of course, this will be Poirier's second title shot. He just got mauled by Khabib 2 years ago. You know, and Dustin's wrestling's phenomenal. You know, his grappling's phenomenal. But when you're going up against a former champion, you know, Khabib, and he wrestled a bear, so you know that's how.
Wasn't he a kid when he wrestled that bear too?
Yeah, exactly. So he'll fight Charles Oliveira, the new UFC lightweight team. Of course, got that belt from Michael Chandler, the former two-time Bellator lightweight champion. And that fight's going to be a lot closer just because both of them have similar fighting styles in terms of just they're both durable. They're both, you know, they can both end the fight on the ground or on the feet. So it should be a lot closer. And I think Conor, you know, he's going to, you know, I hear people say, oh, he's not going to come back. You know, the money's too good. Listen, this dude loves it. You can clearly tell he loves it, or else he wouldn't be doing it. He would be making more proper 12 commercials or going into Hollywood, which I know he, you know, kind of is hesitant to do. But this guy loves the sport. You know, he loves making money. He loves, you know, being the top 5, you know, pay-per-views of all time in UFC history. I think this last weekend it did like 1.8 pay-per-view buys, which was like 4th or 5th on the list. So Conor's going to come back, you know, I'd say next year, you know, maybe early next year. The guy's hunger is still there. You know, he still wants to fight Nate Diaz for a third time. That has to happen. And I know one of his goals is to fight at Allegiant Stadium. But he's still the number one draw. It's not gonna be close. You can put maybe Nate Diaz or Jorge Masvidal, in there. You can maybe even put, Israel Adesanya. But listen, Connor's the number one draw, and it's unfortunate that the fight ended the way it did. I would love to see a second round because I think Connor would have caught the wind early, first 2-3 minutes. But yeah, give credit to Dustin, for just being able to adapt and being able to use the ground and pound. But I know their business is far from over, far from over.
Yep, 1,000%. It was, it was a good fight. I mean, I will say, former NFL player Greg Hardy knocked out in 1 minute and 7 seconds from a left hook from Tai Tuivasa, and I don't know if you saw his post-fight celebration, but the Nelk boys, who are big UFC fans, I guess they have a thing where they drink a beer out of a shoe. It's pretty disgusting, but he got a shoe thrown to him and a beer, and then he drank a beer in the ring with the shoe, and then he told the crowd when he leaves to give him shoes and beers. So he did that, and the first crowd he went to, remember, it's a packed crowd. Nobody's wearing masks anymore. It's Vegas, so it's over. And the first person, they pour the beer in the shoe, he starts drinking it. Right before he starts to drink it, they put hot sauce in it. And you could see him going on his tongue. It was disgusting. And then he got 2 more beers. And then some guy, when he's going in the gate back into the locker room, some guy from up top is pouring a beer down, all the way down. It's like 20 feet into his mouth. He was going nuts. I think that had to be, other than McGregor, I think if the McGregor fight was better in terms of the way it proceeded instead of ending the way it did, would be the highlight. But I think that ended up being the most memorable part of the fight, other than the leg break. I will say this, the other fight that I liked was the fight after the Greg Hardy fight, which is Gilbert Burns, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. That's number 2 versus number 4 in the welterweight. Gilbert Burns, since he moved up to 170, has been tremendous. Yes, he did just lose to Kamaru Usman for the title. But, I mean, I don't know if you listened to the announcers, but everybody was saying, oh, if Burns beats Wonderboy, he'll be good. Like, Burns was, he was a plus 125 underdog, but he's ranked higher than Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. Like, at this moment, looking at rankings, Wonderboy was an underdog, and Gilbert Burns dominated him for 3 rounds. It was a unanimous decision. He was better just all around. And Gilbert Burns, I think he deserves another title shot, but against Kamaru Usman, I don't know how he wins. But overall, I thought the event was good. Is there any highlights that you remember that you want to discuss before we move on here? I did enjoy those 2 moments, though.
Well, I would say with Burns, he's probably next in line. Obviously, Usman and Colby Covington have unfinished business, and I think you're hoping to see that fight at Madison Square Garden. Dana White said earlier, they're trying to get back to MSG, but obviously all the arenas in the world are booked up to the 9s because you still have to make up shows that were supposed to be played, concerts last year. But that we'll see Usman versus Covington, but Sean O'Malley, man, dude, I don't know what's in his veins, but Chris Mortinho too, dude, just I don't know how he survived. We saw the first round. Like, okay, this is over. We're gonna get to the Conor fight like at 9, and then it was going. I went to the bathroom, and it's still going. It's still going. I didn't agree with the stoppage, but I get her being in that position. You want to protect the fighter, make sure he has future UFC paydays. But Chris Mortinho, guy, came in on like 15 days notice.
Short notice.
Yeah, short notice fight, and he, caught O'Malley too.
And to his credit, I mean, he kept moving forward for 3 rounds. Just there were moments where Sean O'Malley, who's one of the best, if not the best, up and coming fighter, and could be, he thought, he could be the next McGregor, right? Which I could see that too. Now he needs to be humbled, which I think he still hasn't yet, even though he has that 1 loss where he always goes 1 loss and he pulls up a 0. But he kept coming forward at O'Malley, and I think props to him. And I agree with you. I don't agree with the stoppage, but you got to protect the fighter. He wasn't winning the fight. He was starting to really get hit. It was like, okay, look, this is over. We know who won. Save his career. Let him have more paydays.
Yeah. And shout out to my friend Ashley. I went to her graduation party in Half Moon Bay, Moss Beach area, and her cousin bought the fight, because usually I illegally stream it. So that's why I whisper.
So did I.
I want FBI to come and get me. They bought the fight. So shout out to my friend Ashley. Thank you. And it was just an insane card. And the Sugar Show, one of Ashley's aunts kept saying the Sugar Show, and she started laughing because, that's his nickname. But I expect Sean O'Malley to fight Cody Garbrandt. That's a fight I've wanted to see
Great
for a while.
fight.
Cody's been he's battled COVID, and then he's had some injury issues. But love to see that fight maybe headline a UFC on ESPN or ESPN Plus card. That's something that, that's money right there. But yeah, successful night. Not so much for Connor, but he'll be back. He's not retired. He's told Stephen A that he is forever. He'll fight for another 300 years, which is humanely impossible. But Poirier will get that next title shot against Charles Oliveira probably December, and most likely in Vegas.
Yeah, definitely. So it was a good card. We'll see when the next big event is. I think those 2 title shots coming up. We still waiting on John Jones, Francis Ngannou. They're gonna do an interim fight because apparently Ngannou's not ready to fight. I really think it's because John Jones is not getting paid the money he wants at this. Like, don't let this turn into boxing. Like, keep people interested and stop going from make Ngannou the face, right? Adesanya, they've done a great job with Adesanya, keeping him relevant. I understand that Connor's still the biggest pull, and I agree with that. But you got to keep the other divisions going, because if you focus solely in on these people, it's not going to work. I mean, you look at what happened with Mayweather and Pacquiao. Mayweather didn't want to fight Pacquiao until he was done, washed up when he knew he could win easy. Yeah. So I just don't want the same thing to happen for UFC, because it is so much fun to watch. And as much as I'm yeah, there needs to be a 4th McGregor Poirier fight, I'm the only reason why that's a thing is because McGregor hurt himself and we couldn't see the result.
And he gave that epic promo, and Dustin's wife flipped him off, so it will happen. And then and then obviously Manny Pacquiao coming back next month against Errol Spence Jr. for the I think WBO welterweight title or whatever. Same day as SummerSlam in Viva Las Vegas. So that's you want to avoid this trip because it's going to be, room rates are going to be through the roof, and that's my rent money for the entire semester.
Yeah, well, I think we got to talk about the Sugar Show, Sean O'Malley's hometown. He was doing dribbles, and then instead of putting up fadeaways, he was hitting jabs. He's from Phoenix, and unfortunately for the Phoenix Suns in Game 3, Derrick, they took the loss, 120-100, and Giannis Antetokounmpo is looking healthier and healthier every game. And the injury he had, to be as effective as he was, especially in Game 3, finishing with 41 points, 14 of 23 shooting, 13 rebounds, and 4 of those 13 rebounds were offensive, and a steal, only 1 turnover. I mean, he was tremendous. I mean, I've been preaching it. These 2 days off in between games, after game 1 and 2, there was 1 day. For the rest of the series, there's 2 days off between games now. He's only going to get healthier and healthier, and I'm very happy to see him making the impact that he has, because I will say this, if he didn't play the finals, Suns in 4. Right? I think Suns in 5 or 6. My gut leans toward 5, but to see Giannis making that impact after the injury he had is awesome. And it's making this NBA Finals for 2 teams and 2 cities that are never there great. And I know it's not the most popular, but people are watching. I think the Suns bring headlines, and it's Giannis. It's the league's arguably the most dominant player. Sorry, LeBron. Sorry, Durant. But the impact that Giannis is making while hurt right now, because you can still see that he's hurt, imagine what he'd be healthy, and he's putting up those numbers. Add in another 5 to 10 points, add in another 5 to 10 rebounds. He has been a menace.
Yeah, he's been carrying the power of the Fonzie with him, and Miller Lite, and then the entire city of Milwaukee and Kenosha, Wisconsin, for that 70s show fans. He's been dominant. It kind of reminds me of what Jimmy Butler did last postseason, at the Disney World bubble. Michael Jordan, obviously, you kind of get some comparisons, but yeah, he's been dominant. You'd like to see Chris Middleton maybe step it up a little bit more. He played decent in game 3. Drew Holiday's been really good defensively overall. Game 3. I'm still leaning Suns, obviously, 6-7 games. I think, most of the Suns role players will need to step it up, besides Chris Paul and Devin Booker just being, okay, pass, ball here, shoot there. We need to see, DeAndre Ayton maybe, I know he's been a rebounding machine, but, in terms of just getting points on the board, going to the free throw line, okay. And then Cam Johnson's been sensational. So, it's been a fun series. Obviously, it's good to see new teams in it. Phoenix has been there, since 93, when MJ dominated that series against Sir Charles Barkley. And then Milwaukee hasn't been there since, 73, built, when Lou Alcindor, a.k.a. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, got them their lone NBA championship. I think that's their last title, too, in Milwaukee, if I'm not mistaken. So, Giannis has proven why he's one of the top 3 best players in the world. And then I think you'll start to see a lot more double teams on him. They'll try to force him to shoot maybe jumpers because that's not his skill set. His skill set's more of like drive to the lane, create his own shots, try to get guys to foul him. But yeah, I think for the Suns, I think the key is to double team him, maybe try to see if Drew Holiday can make a shot. Brooke Lopez, try to get him involved. And try to force the other guys to step up. Because if they, if the other guys don't step up, Suns are easily going to win tomorrow night in Milwaukee. So should be fun though. Series is at 2-1, and I would say, this is a must-win for the Phoenix Suns because if you have it at 2-2, I don't know if you want to go back to Milwaukee. I think they'd rather go to 100 and I don't know. It's been 118-degree weather in Phoenix and have a brisk parade downtown.
Yeah, I mentioned this Wednesday. You and I talked about this last week. Is how would they have a parade? I was with Kevin Wall from Wall to Wall on the channel. He hadn't thought of that either. So when you brought that up, Derrick, I was like, what? I didn't even think about that. So I'm waiting to see if the Suns win. Big if still. I want to know what they're doing for the parade. Obviously, Tampa Bay now has their boat parades, but seriously, if the Suns win, like it's either got to be bright and early, like 7 a.m., which nobody wants to do unless it's the next day when they're drinking all night, drunk off their mind, or they do it, a couple days afterwards, like you normally have, and they do it in the evening, which I think would be great. Like you said last week, there wouldn't be work issues. Yeah, I think there would be a little bit of issues for commuting home. But I feel like if you're working in downtown Phoenix, like you're just going to go to the parade when you're off work. I mean, the town has really come together behind them. They can't really get behind the Coyotes because they stink and they're not playing right now. They can't really get behind the Diamondbacks because they're horrible. So it's good for this town. I mean, Phoenix has not really had good sports teams. They've had underwhelming Diamondbacks teams. Like you said, they haven't been to the finals since Charles Barkley. So it's good to see Phoenix. So I'm really interested to see how that works. And my last point here is you mentioned DeAndre Ayton been a rebounding machine. Finished with only 9 rebounds last game. And I want to touch on that too, because rebounding, I mean, the Suns finished as a team with 36. Bucks, 47, with Giannis leading the way with 13 total rebounds. So in the entire game, Giannis was the only person to have 10 plus rebounds. So they need to make more of an impact. DeAndre Ayton and Jay Crowder need to be impact players. Jay Crowder's had a great series. He's played well, 6 of 7 shooting, all 3-pointers, made 6, obviously, as I said, so 18 points. But he needs to be a little bit better defensively. And I think he and Bridges kind of need to be the guys doubling, like you said, Giannis. And Chris Middleton was good, 6 of 14 shooting, 3 of 7 from 3. Not the greatest, not the worst, but if the Suns want to win, Cam Johnson, who was great last game, and I hope you saw that poster, that was insane. I feel like they need to get him a little bit more involved. And when Bridges takes 10 or more shots, I was listening to the game, they said this stat. They said if Mikal Bridges takes 10 or more shots in a game, they're 11-0 in the postseason this year. So he put up 4. If you know as a team that if he puts up 10 or more shots, you are undefeated, why would you not try and keep that going? That's 11 straight wins. That's a lot of wins, especially in the playoffs. So they need to kind of go back to what they were doing and get find that depth to really come out. Because we had the Cameron Payne big game. Cam Johnson was good, not great. Booker and Paul were okay. Ayton needs to be more of involvement, especially in the boards on the glass. But they need to be more, I guess, Tampa Bay Lightning like, where they need to be more team-oriented and not just rely so much on Booker and Paul with the occasional DeAndre Ayton thrown in there. They need to be more of a team, and I think that'll come. I really do. But it'll be. I agree with you. I think if it goes back to Phoenix after tomorrow's game 2-2, the winner of Game 5 will win the series in 7. That is my prediction. If the Suns win tomorrow, I think it's Suns in 5. I think they close it out. But if it goes back 2-2, the winner of the Game 5 will win the series in 7 games.
Yeah, Chris Paul's been playing the basketball of his life. He wants that ring. He wants that validation. Being one of the greatest point guards of his generation. Steph Curry will have something to say about that when it's all said and done. But I think with the Phoenix, they're a young team. They'll figure it out. Monty Williams is he's been having a great season as the head coach. They'll figure it out. I think they just need to really lock in defensively. And like I said, they were out rebounding, all these dudes, and especially in the Clippers series too, out rebounding Zubats and, Paul George. That's what they need to do. I think if they can out rebound him, like you said, Cam Johnson, if he just shoots 10 more times, great. You're 12-0 in the postseason, but I think it'll be a very close game if the Fierce have forward. And the energy outside the arena has been crazy. Seeing guys Suns in 6 and Bucks in 6, and it's been an intense NBA Finals, and it's only gonna get more intense as we try to see who's gonna hold the Larry O'Brien Trophy.
Yes, sir. And before we move on here to, I would say, our marquee topic of the day, you guys know what it is. It's peak close, bench two, Derrick Jeter, number 2. Peakclothes.com, PEAK clothes.com. Use code BENCH and then the number 2 for $5 off your order. They'll pay your shipping. It'll be a great deal. Get good clothing. They just released some new summer sets, some new shirts, shorts. They even got some bathing suits now. Check them out, peakclothes.com. Please use bench too. And speaking of the bench, keep listening to the channel here. Again, this is not that it matters with Derrick out here on the Tuesday edition. And Derrick last night, it was the start of the MLB All-Star Game festivities, and I have a quick stat here last night about the home run derby. Pete Alonso, or Repeat, has made less. I have 2 stats here. He's made less money as an MLB player, just strictly salary based, maybe not including incentives, than he has in the MLB in the home run derby. He's won 2 home run derbies, which you win $1 million each time, so that's $2 million. He's made $1.4 million in his career, or 1.7, I think is. He's made less than $2 million in his salary of his 2 years in the MLB, well, 2.5 years because you count the shortened season. Than he has winning 2 home run derbies. And my last stat for here is I just read up on this. It's the total number of feet of all the home runs last night was 138,765 feet, which is equivalent to 26.28 miles, meaning it was a full marathon of home run distances plus an extra 140 yards. That's wild. We saw 3 500-foot home runs. Juan Soto with a 520. That was a great home run derby. As you're an A's fan, I would say I am too. I like my Yankees, but I love my A's. I was bummed not to see Madelson go to the second round, but good for Trey Mancini. And it's that Shohei Ohtani Juan Soto matchup was fun. And bummed Ohtani didn't go further, but he made it fun, and people still, it was a coming out party for Ohtani. But man, Pete Alonso. He arguably is the best power hitter on the planet. Those are his words, not mine. And you can make that argument. I mean, his swing looks so calm, cool, collected, and he's really starting to get hot too as we're going to the All-Star break. But give me your favorite moment of the Derby last night, because that was one of the best ones we've ever seen.
Well, I know they did not put the baseballs in a humidifier like you do at Coors Field. It was a fun event. Matt Olson missed it. When Trey Mancini just started going off and off and off, 24 home runs, I'm like, okay, just get at least, 15. And then Olson went on a run. Obviously people on Twitter, on A's Twitter, they're complaining about, the pitcher, he sped up his delivery. I'm like, dude, it's a exhibition event.
It's there to have fun.
We saw what happened to Cespedes when he won it back-to-back years. He kind of plummeted off the face of the earth, and now the Mets are still trying to look for him after he left last year. And the Mets, they're in first place. I don't really watch a lot of NL East baseball, but that division's always been wide open. And the Phillies, of course, are right on their heels at 3.5. Braves, Ronald Acuna obviously tearing his ACL.
So unfortunate.
And then can't count out the Nationals. I know they're 6 games back. It's a wide open division. But, yeah, Pete Alonso, man, he dude's been something else in these home run derbies. Juan Soto, I didn't think he was going to be, 11, he has 18 home runs. I'm like, oh, why did they put him in here? And he just started going off.
Yeah.
Why, he was a key guy.
Well, here's the thing also, before I let you continue here, did you notice Juan Soto was having a lefty pitcher throw to him? Left on left.
Yeah. I think, I know they get to choose who it is. So somebody, like family friend, Trey Mancini, of course, inspirational story. It's great to see him back because he was, 2019, he was out in a stellar season. Obviously last year, he opted out because he was battling cancer. But yeah, it was a good event. Obviously Shohei Ohtani was the main attraction. He performed well. Of course the nerves are there, obviously because he is the most well-known attraction. And it caused a little bit of some stir with Stephen A. Smith saying, not the face of baseball because you can't speak English. Listen, dude, you ever heard of Ichiro Suzuki, Hideo Nomo? You ever heard of Hideki Matsui?
Masahiro Tanaka.
I mean, Masahiro Tanaka, those dudes speak English. They know what you're trying to say. Okay. They don't need to speak English to the media. That's up to them. They, I don't understand that take as an Asian American, as a, being a minority, I guess. That's just one of the worst
It was
things
a
to hear, is that
hot take that was not okay.
You can't speak English. Dude, my grandparents, my grandmother came from China, communist China. She didn't speak a lick of English. And come on, man. That's just one of the worst takes I've ever heard.
Especially when the sport of baseball needs it most. You need a face. You need a guy to take it to the next level. I'm sure, if you notice, Ohtani last night, he hit one home run in the first minute and 10.
Yeah. And
he had the weight of all of Japan watching him.
Yeah, and I'm surprised because I don't watch First Take. I don't watch Undisputed. I hate watching those shows because all they talk about is the NBA and the NFL. And I'm surprised they brought up baseball. That's the first time I've heard them talk baseball in about 6 years or 7 years. Maybe when the Yankees won the World Series in 2009, who knows? But it's just awful to hear that, because to me, there is no singular face. Baseball's now a regional sport. It depends on where you live. If you're a New Yorker, it's either Aaron Judge or
Pete Alonso, Jake DeGrom.
Yeah, Jake DeGrom too. If you're from Cali like us, if you're from SoCal, it's either Cody Bellinger, Mookie Betts, Fernando Tatis. If you're from the Bay Area, it's Matt Chapman or it's Buster Posey. There is no singular, and I forgot Ohtani and Trout too. I mean, come on, I get they're trying to draw ratings, but when you say stupid stuff like that, and especially when we've seen all these hate attacks against Asian Americans in the Bay Area. This event's supposed to bring people together, not tear people apart. And Stephen A., I know you're a smart dude. You get paid $12 million a year, but maybe learn to know the community before you speak out on it.
1,000% agree. And I know, like you said, you are an Asian American. I'm sure that hit kind of right at home. And I the biggest thing that I keep seeing is if Stephen A. Smith is a white man, he'd be fired already.
Oh, my dad said that too. Yeah.
Right. So I mean, Nathan, host of Friday's show, he said that. I think the same thing. I know my trainer Nick said that. My dad told me that. Your dad's. I mean, that's a consensus right now. But we didn't get into it last week. But Rachel Nichols, she came out and said, "Oh, I know diversity. That's what you guys want right now." Well, it rears its ugly head again. The reason why Stephen A. Smith has not been fired already is because they're like, "Oh, well, he brings in ratings. He's a black man." But what he said is not okay. So, I don't want to get too much into it, get too off topic here, because I do think we need to celebrate what Ohtani is doing, as well as all these other foreign people. I mean, you look at most of the top players, right? Yes, we have the Americans, but you look, people, Jose Abreu, who won MVP last year, had to sneak into the country from Cuba. Yasiel Puig's another one. These guys are coming in from all over, from the Dominican Republic. I mean, David Ortiz, right? He's another guy. All these guys are coming in from offshore. They're getting smuggled. I mean, why do we need to do that to somebody as polarizing as Ohtani is? I mean, the players went to the Home Run Derby and the All-Star Weekend, and they are just in awe of him. Why bash him? Why shut it down? When like you said, this is supposed to be a time of coming together, bringing the sport in, because baseball this year, I'm not going to lie to you, has been pretty bad. It's been very boring. Games are taking way too long. There's been limited to no excitement at almost every game. There's the occasional home run, right? We see Ohtani, and people are, I know my fantasy football chat, they're like, oh, Ohtani, the fraud pitcher, I can't deny his hitting. Okay, cool. Tatis, he made a great play. We don't need to see him every day. This is not a time to bash the sport when it needs it most. It's a dying sport. It's turning into a full-on regional sport, like you said. So to have somebody as good and as dominant, as fun as Ohtani's been, and his character really this year, especially since we're kind of coming out of the pandemic, is really starting to show. That take was not only wrongly timed and horrible, but it was just not what a sports reporter or somebody that you and I aspire to be, something for that person to do. You're supposed to report the facts in the sport and give your hot takes, sure, but it's not a time to bash what and so on and so forth is the face of the league, of the sport, because he is not from America and he doesn't speak English to your knowledge. it's just not okay, and it's something that is fireable. And Stephen A, whether he's fired or not, he needs to leave the channel. I think for at least a extent. I think he should be fired, but he should not. He should be put on suspension at the very least. Don't let him have his shows. I don't know if they've done anything. I know, Derek, do you know if they've done anything?
Oh, I know they had Jeff Passan, who, by the way, is one of baseball's best reporters. Talk about he's here for the American dream, like all of us are. He's trying to make his dreams come true, being one of the greatest baseball players on the planet.
I mean, Ohtani is sorry to cut you off. Ohtani is a once in a lifetime player. You can compare him to Babe Ruth. Babe Ruth was not throwing 100 miles an hour and hitting 32 bombs while hitting 290. Babe Ruth is a great all-time player, and when Babe Ruth's hitting it, it was point and then jog because he's not in shape. Ohtani's bat flipping. He's throwing 100. He's laughing. I mean, Mike Trout called him on the phone last night saying, "You got this," and he went, "Mike," and he spoke English, a concept. So, sorry, continue. That's just had to get that in there.
Well, I think you said baseball's dying because your Yankees are 8 back and looking to fire people.
They should fire people, but go on.
No, but I think baseball. I wouldn't say baseball's dying. I think it's just number one. They've been trying to, or they're fixated on trying to make it attractive for younger people. And I get it. You sit on your phone for 2.5 hours, and then they had to put the extended netting up just because I'm on TikTok and I'm gonna make a TikTok and you get hit in the face, you go to the hospital, and foul ball's coming at you at like 100 miles an hour. I would say their marketing needs to be a little better, and they're starting to try to make it more better. I think it's there's a ton more star power, and that's really good to see in every market, which is great. I think there's just not like okay, it's Derek Jeter basically in the Yankees, and then you got everybody else, or David Ortiz in the Red Sox, and the Yankees basically everybody else. I think number one, they need to get rid of. I get Red Sox, Yankees make money and they're boost ratings, but you need to stop showing that on Sunday Night Baseball. And I get it, most of your viewers live.
And when was the last time that was actually like a rivalry? I would say the Rays and the Yankees create more of tension than the Red Sox and Yankees do right now.
Yeah, and they've been showing a lot more Padres because of Tatis, but we haven't seen the A's Astros series on ESPN. That's more compelling than watching the Red Sox who are having a solid season and the 4th place Yankees. I think they need to step it up.
They're on ESPN twice this week,
Rob Manfred.
Red Sox Yankees crazy. Is twice, I believe.
And I know Commissioner Rob Manfred spoke earlier today. He's going to get rid of the 7 doubleheaders, which I'm kind of fine with.
I thought he was
the second base next year. No, they're gonna try to get rid of it next year. But the second base on extra innings, I'm fine with it for the regular season. I think it helps out. In terms of you want to control the game. But dude, you need to stop doing the checks on. I don't care about spin rates. If they put sunscreen on the ball, great. More power to them. But they need to stop doing the checks. Those are stupid. Those make me feel like I'm going to TSA to watch a baseball game, which I'm not. I think they just need to limit the rule changes. They also need to probably, need a couple more expansion teams. I'd love to see them go back to Montreal, which I think they will in my lifetime. I'd love to see them go to Charlotte maybe. So just a lot of different things. I think marketing-wise, they fell behind when the NFL and NBA caught up, and, the NHL is still a growing sport. But yeah, baseball, it's always going to be the national pastime. You can say, oh, football took it over, but no, baseball is always the national pastime in terms of the prestige, the honor, how the Hall of Fame is so selective and it's so prestigious. But yeah, I think baseball, if they hired me as a marketing director, you'll see it go back to number 1 in ratings. That's for damn sure.
Well, I hope to bring you with me. And before we move on here to our last 2 topics, a little bit smaller, give me your biggest surprise in the MLB this year. I'll go first. My biggest surprise in terms of player on the field is Adolis Garcia of the Texas Rangers. Dude's been unreal, all-star, came onto the scene. I mean, he was waived. He was almost released. He almost retired. It was the end of the road for him, and he's now an all-star, batting .270 this year with 22 bombs, 62 ribbies, playing his heart out on the field. That's just for me. That's the biggest surprise. I mean, he came out of nowhere. You can make an argument for Jared Walsh, almost ending the career of Albert Pujols. But it doesn't have to be player based. But that's just for me. That's one of the biggest surprises this year. You can make an argument for Kevin Gausman and the Giants. But Derek, let me get your biggest surprise of this year's MLB season so far.
I think one, I'll do like three. Uh, I think one is Shohei Ohtani. I didn't think he would be a breakout star. I was kind of skeptical. Like, I want to pitch and hit. Okay, go to the National League. He stayed in the American League, and he took up. He's taken off. I think because Mike Trout's been hurt the past like 2-3 months, and the Angels, they've kind of been a Jekyll and Hyde team. They're 45, 44. They were 500, but they're trying to. They need to go on a roll if they want to make a wild card. I think for my A's, it's been Tony Kemp. Dude's been an on-base machine. I did not see that coming. He's been an on-base machine. He's been making great defensive plays. Of course, the A's need to upgrade, maybe in the infield and need to get another bat, but that's for a different show. And in terms of the teams, man, besides my A's being good, like they always are, the Brewers and the Giants, man, did not see that happening. I know the Brewers were kind of hitting the reset button, and Christian Yelich, he's been having a decent season, but they're, the NL Central is always wide open, like the East. But the Brewers, man, 53-39, and then obviously the Giants, I did not see that season coming out of them. I knew they were going to be over 500, but to be 57-32,
best team in baseball.
Granted, you have the Dodgers. Yeah, the Dodgers who have a ton of firepower, and they're going to add pieces. The Padres are still working in the background. So that team, the NL West is a 3-division race, but the Giants, man, they've had tons of guys who play multiple positions. They're kind of trying to be built like the Dodgers. They've been having an unbelievable season. Brandon Crawford and Buster Posey hit the fountain of youth, and then Kevin Gausman, dude's been sensational. Anthony DeSclafani, by the way,
leading the MLB in shutouts.
Yeah, guy's just a shutout machine. Cueto's been having a solid season. They will make an upgrade in bullpen though, so it should be fun to watch the second half of baseball.
Yep, definitely. And before we move on here to our golf topic for the day with the Open Championship, we have some San Jose State Spartan news, and your hometown of Salinas. Ruben Abarra, first baseman for the San Jose State Spartans, is now the highest draft pick for the school in 17 years. He's drafted in the 4th round, 119th overall, which is great in the MLB. I would say that's the equivalent to a 2nd-round pick in the NBA or the NHL. There's 30 rounds of drafting in the MLB. And he was selected by the Cincinnati Reds, and they got a great guy. They got a great player. And if you think about the timing of it, do they expect him to be the Joey Votto replacement? But I know, as you and I reported to the Spear, Ruben has not had the greatest of relationships with us as the Spear, but I know you were able to talk to him. Tell the people listening who Ruben Abarra is quickly, and let them know what you expect of him from on the Cincinnati Reds.
Yeah, well, he's from Watsonville, so that's about 20 miles. I think you need to come to Salinas, but you're like, no, I don't want to. It's too far of a drive. Not my Bay Area fan. Far drive. I drove to Half Moon Bay, an hour 30, so now it's going 100 miles an hour like Vin Diesel. But Ruben's a down to earth kid. Obviously he's kind of built like David Ortiz, 6'2". But his defense has improved drastically. And I know he's mentioned, I think an interview with like the local paper, Santa Cruz Sentinel, that he wants to stay on the field. And I think he can do that. His athleticism has improved, like I said. And I know he was like 3rd or 4th in on-base slugging. He had light tower power. He was like, unreal. And in terms of being the Joey Votto parent, I think, like you said, you have to get experience on your belt in baseball. Especially it's one of the tougher sports to just try to make it to the show. But I have no doubt in my mind, he has that work ethic to, turn this, being a 4th round draft pick, he has that work ethic to really turn it around. And I know he's been leaning towards, turning pro. And I know we had the NIL, ruling come down. So we'll see. I think, if the money's there for him in Cincinnati, go take it. If it's not, you can go improve your draft stock. Of course, people are like, oh, he's going to get hurt. But listen, you only go to college once. But whatever he does, man, dude's going to be sensational, whether it's in San Jose or in the Reds organization.
Yeah, it's great. He's 6'5", 290 pounds. He's a big boy. Like you said, light tower power. I don't think he's 290. Yeah. I really don't think he's 290. But quickly here, we got about 5 minutes left. Coming up soon, we've got, is it this weekend? I believe is the British Open, the Open Championship. Give me your quick preview here, and the favorite at 7-1 is none other than John Rahm, who I'm picking in the pick.
Yeah, the open it's always wide open because you can have some guy from, we have Ben Curtis won 2003. He was like 300th in the world. Darren Clark was 111th when they last played at Royal St. George's. I think it's going to be either Rom. He's been playing really good the past 3-4 tournaments he's been in. He did play the Scottish Open. He's world number 2 now. I don't know how that works. So Dustin Johnson's back to world number 1. Rory, he's had like 4 or 5 top 10 finishes at the Opens. Of course, missed the bet to go at Royal Portrush. Tony Finau, his last 2 starts at the Open, top 10 finishes. But you have to wait and see who I pick. Like I said, I think it's going to be a lot. It's going to be a lot more wide open. I know it's supposed to be 70 degrees, so the ball's going to be carrying. It's not going to be Bryson DeChambeau. I think when new school meets old school usually wins. And, I think he needs to learn how to hit a lower ball flight for that to happen. But like I said, it should be fun. It should be interesting. It's exciting to see the Open back. And you know what? I might share my pick. I think, Lee Westwood can get it done, or Louis Oosthuizen. I'm leaning towards those 4 or 5 guys, just because Oosthuizen's been playing sensational in the majors this year. Westwood, he had a fantastic run at the Players, and of course, kind of the similar Darren Clark, where Darren Clark was in his mid-40s, and he won his only major at Royal St. George's. Lee Westwood gets his major. He's a World Golf Hall of Famer, without a shadow of doubt. So should be fun. Of course, the pick'em comes out later tonight because coverage starts at 10:30 tomorrow night, and it's on Peacock. I know, and I'm annoyed that you have to subscribe to Peacock. I have had to do it because of WWE. But by the way, rest in peace to Mr. Wonderful, Paul Orndorff, the legend in the wrestling business, main evented WrestleMania 1, which catapulted WWE into a stratosphere. So prayers, thoughts go out to his family. But should be fun at the British Open, though, at Royal St. George's, and you get to eat some breakfast at midnight.
Yeah, go ahead, Derek. Plug your Instagram so we can get people in on this pick'em. It's a cool thing, and I know you have awards for winners of pick'ems, but they can't all play golf with you, which is one of many awards. But go ahead and plug your stuff real quick, and then I'll close this up.
BQ42 Golf Life on Instagram, Twitter, Derrick Q42, Facebook. You know where to find me. I get a lot of robot accounts. So if you're a robot and you're from Rwanda and you don't look like you're from Rwanda or whatever, Russia, I'm not going to, hit that up. Snapchat, the Dark Golf Train 1. And then also you can find me on SoundCloud. That's where all my broadcasts are at. And also you can find me on justakidfromsalinas.com. But should be fun. And then also, next Tuesday is going to be big. Hopefully the A's will stay. The stadium vote might get improved. Hopefully so. I don't want to see him in Henderson.
I'm hoping the vote comes out before we go live.
Yeah, I am not going to buy Las Vegas A's shirt. You'll only see me wearing Oakland A's shirt. If they move, I think my days of a baseball fan might be over. So we'll see.
Bold. It would be sad to see the A's leave. Rob Manfred said Vegas would be a viable option. That did just come out. But check us out on the Bench Sports. It's been fun, Derek. We've got the Hockey Holic next with James Leather. It's been a great show. Thank you all for listening. Keep listening to the channel. We got great stuff. Check out my YouTube. Just search Max Miller Sports, Not That It Matters, or The Bench Sports, Not That It Matters with Max Miller. All the episodes are uploaded there, either one day or 2 days afterward. This has been a great show. Derek, thank you again for joining me. Keep listening to the channel. Bench 2 on Peak Close. But this has been Not That It Matters with Max Miller.